And what is the real situation is, usually in the last year we are supposed to see 50 to 80 sick patients per doctor, but now we are seeing 150 to 200 patients per doctor. It is so hectic. Even in such a hectic schedule, patients come and ask, "Sir, why didn't you give a lemon juice for the patient? He can recover now." There is so many absurd doubts they are referring from the WhatsApp, Facebook, like that. But what I am requesting is, if you have any genuine doubt, go and refer in 3 websites. The 3 websites are, I put it in the chat box. One is WHO. WHO has an official website about COVID, followed by CDC, that is Central Disease Control, which is about by the US. And another one is our Indian standards, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, MOHFW. These 3 websites will update, have updated info about COVID, and even the latest discoveries, what are the treatment we are giving, like that. So nothing to panic. Next. We expected 2021 to be a very good year, but what happened is this. So this is the current scenario is, every 4th case in the world is from India, and every 2nd death in the world is now from India. So we are facing a very grim situation. The situation is so much pathetic. So this is 3 to 3.5 lakhs cases we are facing per year, and 3,000 to 3,500 deaths per day. And hospitals are overwhelmed with patients, and healthcare workers are at the verge of breakdown. There is a term called caregiver breakout, caregiver burnout. So last 1 year, we are continuously working in the COVID wards. Around 800 doctors died. This does not include those paramedical staff also. So the situation is out of control now. So what is the difference between the first wave and the second wave? In the first wave itself, we can predict these patients are going to be sick, like those patients with more than 60 years of age, those patients have uncontrolled diabetes, those patients with hypertension. We can predict this patient is going to be sick, so we can care this patient. But now we cannot predict the illness. Even young age, 30 to 35 years, 25 years, 17 years, I have seen three patients, one 17-year-old girl, 25-year-old girl, and 30-year-old male. Last duty, they expired without any comorbidities. Really, it is very. Even the 25-year-old girl is a software engineer working in Bangalore. I was full of tears. I cannot control my tear because he is a single child. So we cannot predict the illness. This is the difference between first and the second wave. Young age above 30, all have severe lung findings, and children are more affected. But I haven't seen any death in children, but children are affected. This is highly contagious. For example, last time when one person is infected in the home, the chance of other person being infected is around 20 to 25%. But now, for one person is infected, the high chance of all the person in the family is getting the disease is also very high. Mutated virus. Now, I will tell about what is mutation in the next coming slides. And case fatality is also higher. The death rate among the COVID patients is now very high. These are the pandemics humans faced in the past. First, the worst pandemic is the plague, which occurred in the 14th century. Imagine, at that time, the world population is only 40 crores. Among the 40 crores, 20 crores died of COVID, plague. That is, half of the world population died of plague in 14th century. This is the first pandemic. So plague is the first pandemic, followed by Spanish flu. And this is also a influenza virus, which killed around 10 crore people, and followed by so many pandemics. Now, the recent pandemic we are facing is the COVID-19. So what is COVID-19? Is it a new virus? Any guesses from you? Is it a new virus or age-old virus? Even in 2009 itself, when I was studying MBBS, I studied about the COVID virus. It is a coronavirus family. It's a coronavirus family. These viruses, what is the difference between the old coronavirus and the new coronavirus is this is a genetically modified virus. Whether the modification took place in some laboratory or someone did it voluntarily, we don't know. But this is a genetically modified virus with the enhanced virulence. Virulence means the ability to infect the people. The virulence is enhanced in this new virus. So simply speaking, in your common terms, you can say in the Hollywood movies, in any movies we see that hero is very weak. Then after some time, hero goes and trains in the gym and comes out very like a bouncer and hit the villain and wins the race. Like that, these viruses, which are very dormant virus, inactive virus, this infection goes like a normal flu, normal common cold, like that illness. This is comes and go. But these are genetically modified. Maybe they may have this genetically modification took place in the forest or some laboratories, anything. But this is genetically modified virus with a very severe virulence, which came again. These are like the story, that like that. So coronavirus are a group of viruses that cause disease in mammals and bats only. So by genetically modifying the viruses, now it comes to the humans with enhanced virulence and severely affects the respiratory tract. Okay. These are the mutant virus. What this mutation means, when multiplication takes place in a very rapid way, like this virus is very, very rapidly multiplying, some genetic variation takes place. Some mutation may be lethal to the virus itself. Some mutant virus will die. Some mutant virus will have an enhanced virulence, like that. So 3 mutant virus we have identified. One is B11.7 and B1351 and P1 variant. These are 3 mutant virus which are circulating now. Like Goliath, nowadays, our enemies are very small, very like the coronavirus. You see the size of the COVID virus, 0.51 to 0.5 micrometer, which is 10 power minus 6 meter. Now, recently, researcher told all the COVID virus in the world can be contained in a small Coca-Cola tin. Small Coca-Cola tin can, all entire COVID virus in the world can be contained in a small Coca-Cola tin. That small amount of virus is causing that much pandemic in the world. Imagine. So why new viruses keeps on coming? There is a doubt for all of us now. In the recent 2 decades, like 10 to 20 years, we have seen so much of viruses like Ebola virus, which is happened in Africa, which is 100% fatal. No, there is no cure, 100% fatal. Another one is Zika virus that also happened in Africa. MERS virus and SARS virus, both are coronavirus family only. And then Nipah virus, which occurred in Kerala. So these are the recent viruses which occurred, which we heard in the last 2 to 3 decades. Any guesses from you? Why there are new viruses keeps on coming? Okay, because more and more deforestation takes place. More and more human enters into the forest. More people are exposed to more new viruses. Like only those viruses which are inhabitants of mammals or forest animals. If we go deeper and deeper into the forest, we are exposed to new viruses. That is the main reason. More and more we destroy the forest, more and we construct the more dams, more and more we inhabitate the forest animals. These new viruses, which are not new to humans, we will take these viruses. This is the main thing. So you can take the point now. We need not fear about that nuclear bombs, atom bombs now. The only thing we should fear is after the 20 to 40 years is microbes. Microbes are the worst enemies for human in the upcoming years. You can take that point itself. So how the disease transmission takes place? The transmission takes place by 3 mechanisms. One is airborne, another one is droplet. Difference between airborne and droplet are airborne is those particles that can be suspended in the air. If you cough, very minute particles, very, very small particles, less than 5 micron size, they can be suspended in the air, very crowded places. If you go into a bank, if you go into any crowded restaurant, that airborne droplets can be suspended in the air. They can be keep on circulating in the AC, ventilation, and they can remain in the air for more than 6 to 10 hours. So this is airborne. Another one is droplet. Droplets are very heavier particles, like direct sneezing. That water droplets coming from the nose, that are droplets. They can directly infect the patient opposite to you. That is droplets. Another we know contact surface contamination. that is the particles are objects used by the infected person. When we use that, we can get the disease. So this is the difference between airborne transmission and droplet transmission. These are the droplets which are very small, which can be suspended in the air for a very long time, and droplets means such a heavier particle which can be directly transmitted to the opposite person. So this is a secondary attack rate. Secondary attack, once a person is infected by COVID, means he can transmit the disease 2 days before the symptoms onset and 7 days after the symptoms onset. So the communicability period, the infectivity period of an infected person is 9 days. 2 days before the getting the symptoms and 7 days after the getting the disease. After 9th to 10th day, even he is ill, even he is affected by COVID, he cannot transmit the disease. He is ineffective in transmitting the disease. Okay. How the COVID causes disease? How the COVID causes the illness? I can show you. So imagine a lung is a balloon. This is a balloon, and this is your blood vessel. So what happens in the lungs is lung is a balloon. The balloon, the rubber coating of the balloon is the outer layer of the balloon, outer layer of lungs, and followed by below the lungs there will be a blood vessel. So what happens is when you inhale air, huge amount of oxygen will be present in the lungs. Here more amount of oxygen. Here oxygen will be present. So the blood coming to the lungs. Here the blood comes to the lungs, which will be devoid of oxygen, which is very low in oxygen. So according to nature, oxygen goes from an area of high concentration to low concentration. This is permitted by a means of membrane called alveolar membrane. Here is a membrane. This membrane helps in the diffusion of the contents. So what happens in COVID is, this COVID damages the lungs by two mechanisms. One is it fills the lungs with water. If you see, whenever we get an injury, means we fall down or somebody hit us, there will be a swelling collection of fluid takes place in that area. Like that, if lung is injured, the lung is filled with fluid, not by air. Lung is filled by fluid. So this prevents the movement of oxygen from lungs into the blood. This is one mechanism. Another one is, as I said, there is a membrane. This membrane helps in the transmission of diffusion of oxygen from the lungs into the blood. This membrane is completely damaged in the COVID. So it causes accumulation of fluid. Instead of air, your lungs will be filled with fluid, which prevents oxygen diffusion. One. Second one is it damages the membrane, which helps in the transmission of oxygen from the lungs into the blood. So by two mechanisms, it will make us devoid of oxygen. This is a basic mechanism. Other symptoms are fever, other supportive symptoms only. So symptoms can be either asymptomatic. 81% of the patients will be very mild symptoms, and 14% will need oxygen therapy. They will be cured, and 5% need ICU care. These are the symptoms: fever, cough, feeling tired, fatigue. Fatigability is the most common symptom. Fatigability and chills, muscle aches, headache, sore throat, and loss of smell and taste. This is called anosmia. These are very pathognomic symptoms. This will be present in COVID only, where no other disease have this loss of smell and taste. Then rare rashes will be there. And severe disease, patients will have breathing difficulty, chest tightness, loose stools will be present. So how to prevent the disease? SMS. SMS means soap, mask, and social distancing. And V for vaccination. So hand wash. How hand wash prevents COVID? I explained COVID and the coronavirus structure. It is made up of a lipid layer. That means it is made up of lipids. So washing with soap dissolves the outer layer, which exposes which damages or disintegrates the virus. I will show in coming videos.
Hello, sir. We cannot hear your video volume, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will see.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how the video is playing now.
Sir, you go ahead. We will share the
No video is. Yes. Yes.
Joshua, take control over that. But the lecture can go on.
Okay. So, soap can disintegrate the viruses in 20 seconds. And also sanitizer, which is alcohol containing sanitizers, more than 60% can disintegrate the virus immediately within contact. These are the ways how to wash this, wash our hands, which is advised by WHO. First, we have to rub the palms. There are 6 methods. We should be thorough by these methods. Rub the hands, then interlace the fingers, then interlock the fingers, then the thumb. These are the methods. You can see these steps in WHO websites itself. I will upload the video afterwards. Okay. Then mask. Then there are so many doubts about the mask. Which mask I should use? How to wear the mask? How to remove the mask? Should I wash my mask? Should I wear mask in homes? Should we use mask during exercise? So I will clear those doubts in the upcoming slides. So this is the picture which is taken during the spread of Spanish flu in 1917 itself. You see a picture here. Those people has written, wear a mask or go to jail. In 1917 itself, people know the importance of wearing masks. So there are 3 types of masks. One is a fabric mask, which people commonly use. The another one is a surgical mask, which is more effective, and it's a K95 or N95 mask. These N95 and K95 masks are used by the medical professionals. And cloth mask. Cloth mask has no protection against virus. So only thing cloth mask protects it. Cloth masks prevent the disease transmission from an infected individual to the others. If I am infected, means I cannot transmit the virus to others by preventing the droplets, airborne droplets. These cloth masks can prevent. But if a person is sneezing in front of you and you are wearing a cloth mask, means these cloth masks cannot save you from COVID. These are not effective in protecting you. Only an infected person uses cloth mask. Prevents from him spreading the disease. Surgical masks are very effective, 95% effective in preventing the viruses. So what CDC now advises is double mask. For common people, first use the surgical mask inside by creating a loop. This is a loop. First, you should wear a surgical mask. That surgical mask should have a nose pin on the top. Nose pin. That nose pin can help in creating a tight seal from your nose, and also followed by a cloth mask outside. So double mask is very effective when compared to a single mask now itself. Okay. Then when you are using a N95 mask, there is no need in doubling the mask. Whenever you are using only the 2 masks that can be combined is a surgical mask and a cloth mask. It can be combined. This is how. When a person sneezes or speaks, his droplets can go up to 8 meters. You see, here this is a person infected with COVID. This is a person infected with COVID. Infected with COVID. These droplets can go up to 8 meters. But but usually when usually the normal person, when we are talking, this is the distance maintained by us, 1.8 meters. But what happens when the person wears a mask? This is very much limited, and the droplet spread by the patient is very much limited, which can be which prevents the COVID-19 spread. Then which mask to select? For common public, only a cloth mask and surgical mask is more than enough. Doubling the mask. So how to these are the precautions. The mask should have 2 or more layers of washable and breathable fabric, completely cover the nose and mouth, and it should be fit very tightly. The fitting should not be any loose, and have a nose wire. As I said, there is a nose wire should be there. The nose wire should be to prevent the air leaking out of the top of the mask. So how to remove the mask? Whenever you wear a mask, should not touch the mask here. Only you should remove the mask from the ear loops. You touch here and remove the mask. Never remove the mask by here or here like that. So remove the mask by the straps behind the ears or head. This is the correct way of removing the masks. And you put the mask for washing. So do not use the mask that looks damaged masks, and not loose masks you should not use. And do not wear the mask under the nose like most commonly people used to wear. And do not remove the mask where there are people is within 1 meter. In crowded place, don't remove the mask. And do not use a mask that is difficult to breathe through. Some masks are made up of polyester, vinyl chloride. These masks do not use that mask itself. And do not dirty or wet mask do not wear. Okay, children less than 2 years don't need a mask because it will cause them difficult to breathe. So do not put children younger than 2 years, do not use mask. And if more than 2 years, get a small mask of for their size and their age. And this is the way to remove the mask. You should remove from the back, from the ear loops. From this side only we should remove the masks, and fold the outside corners and put it for washing. So should I wear mask during exercises? This is a common doubt for all of us. You should not wear a mask during exercises. Just maintaining a physical distance, social distancing is more than enough, because during exercises we need more oxygen. Our body needs more oxygen. If you wear a mask, that oxygen supply will be reduced. So we become more breathless. So it is not advised to wear mask during exercises. Also during exercise, there will be more sweat, which will make the mask more wet, and it is a fertile ground for the culture of microorganisms. So don't wear masks while exercises, but follow strict physical distancing. This is our Indian way of wearing masks. So social distance. Do we need to wear mask in our home? No, it is not needed. Only when a person in our home is infected, it is essential to maintain the physical distance and to wear mask in home. Otherwise, wearing mask in the home is not advised. And outside, you should wear mask and follow social distancing both. So how to diagnose COVID? If I have no symptoms, what to do next? I have to diagnose whether I have COVID or not. First thing you should know is COVID is not the only organism that is present in the world. There are so many microorganisms present. So all fevers are not COVID. First, do not panic. And if we have more doubt, we can do the swab testing. That is the throat swab, RT-PCR testing. But the swab test is only 60 to 70% sensitive. That is, it can predict only 60 to 70% of the people with COVID. Remaining 30% cannot, with COVID itself, this swab test cannot identify those patients. Okay. Then CT test, which is CT test is usually done to identify the severity of the illness, not to diagnose COVID. And the rapid antigen test, which is poor sensitivity and not advised now. If you can have some typical symptoms like COVID, like anosmia, loss of smell, loss of taste, severe myalgia, fever, but you take a COVID test, but the swab comes negative. Why? They can say because the swab test can come as negative because of the following reasons. One is the sensitivity is only 60 to 70% because of the technical errors when the patient and the individual taking the test. Taking the swab, he may not take the test properly, one, because that is a bias. Another one is late presentation. Only the swab test can be positive up to 7 to 8 days only. After 8 to 9 days, even the person is severely infected, the swab becomes negative. So late presentation, technical errors, bias can make the swab negative even if we have COVID. So if we have symptoms, go and take a throat swab. Throat swab mostly it will come as negative. Some even if it comes negative, it can be detected by some blood test. I will say it in the coming slides. So if you are infected, what to do next? So do not panic, monitor yourself, self-isolate, and red flag signs. How to monitor yourself? If you are tested positive for COVID, what to do next? Then if you have mild symptoms, go and check with the doctor. Go check your two things you have to monitor. One is pulse oximetry, that is your oxygen levels. Another one is 6-minute walk test. These two are very important. You can monitor in the home itself. How to do the pulse oximetry? I will tell in the coming slides. Then how long to isolate? Isolation 14 days from the day of swab positivity. For example, if I get swab positive on the May 1st, I have to isolate myself for 14 days up to May 14th. After 14th day, I have to take a second swab test. If the swab test becomes negative, nothing, I can come out, I can mingle with the normal population. If the second swab also after the 14th day comes positive, another 7 days I have to quarantine. And after 21 days, I have to take another swab test. So normally we have to isolate for 14 days. After 14th day, take a swab. The swab comes negative, there is no need of further isolation. Then if the 14th day swab becomes positive, you have to isolate for another 7 days. So 21 days of isolation is needed. So two things are needed for monitoring in home. One is pulse oximetry. We all know about pulse oximeter, which is a probe which checks your oxygen levels. Then how to use a proper pulse oximetry? First, if you have any nail polish or any artificial coloring agents or damaged nails, your oxygen level can be shown negative, can be shown as low, even if you have good oxygen levels. So please check in a hand with a good nails and no coloring or no nail polish in the fingers. Okay. Then remove nail polish or false nails. Or if you are in a very cold area, if your hands are very cool, that can also falsely show your oxygen levels very low. So before checking your oxygen levels, you can warm your hands. Like if you do like this, your hand will become warm. After that, you can check the oxygen levels. So first remove nail polish, false nails, warm, rest for 5 minutes, then check your oxygen levels. And switch on the, usually in the middle finger or index finger is used for monitoring the oxygen levels. And record the highest results once it has not changed for 5 seconds. Put the pulse oximeter for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, if the reading remains the same, for example, 98, 97, it remains the same, that you can take that as the reading. Check pulse oximeter 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night. Normal levels are more than 97, 96, 97. If it is more than 96, no need to worry. Whenever your oxygen levels falls less than 95, 94, you need to be hospitalized. That is one thing. So pulse oximeter is very important. Your oxygen levels should not fall below 95. Another one is 6-minute walk test, which can predict the severity of your illness. So here, how to do a 6-minute walk test? If you are isolated in a room, quarantined in a room, how to do the 6-minute walk test is measure your oxygen level prior to the exercise. So prior to walking, first check your oxygen levels. For example, prior to walking, my oxygen level is 98. Okay. Then I briskly walk for 6 minutes in my room itself. Briskly walk for 6 minutes, and again check my oxygen levels. If it falls more than 2 to 3 readings, for example, 97 is my initial oxygen levels. After 6 minutes of walking, if the oxygen levels falls below 94, that is 94, 95, more than 2 to 3 readings it will fall. That indicates your lungs is not coping up. You need to be hospitalized. So 6 minutes walk test is a very good monitor of your prognosis. How you are going to progress in the upcoming days. So this is a very good test, and you have to do 2 to 3 times a day. So if your oxygen levels should remain somewhat the same even after a 6-minute walk. If they drop by more than 3 to 4 points, consult your doctor. You need to be hospitalized. It's a very good indicator, 6-minute walk test. So what treatment usually we give during isolation means you can take vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C. Vitamin C is a very good immunity boosters that is present in lemon juice, all citrus fruits, then gooseberry amla. They have very good high levels of vitamin C. These things help in the growth of all the immune cells. So these are taken. Then ivermectin. These are the drugs which are given during the quarantine period. Steam inhalation 3 to 4 times a day also very effective. You can try that. And what are the red flag symptoms? These symptoms occurs, you needs to be hospitalized. These are your oxygen level less than 94. You are not able to speak. That is, if you want to speak a sentence, you cannot complete the sentence because of breathlessness. If you are not able to speak, you cannot speak two or three words in a continuous because of breathlessness. So altered consciousness. If your oxygen level reduces, your brain don't get enough oxygen, your consciousness will reduce. That is altered consciousness. If you are in chest tightness or chest pain, and fever not reducing more than 9 to 10 days, these are the red flag symptoms. In this indicates you need to be hospitalized immediately. Then who are at the risk of developing severe disease? These are the people, those who are having uncontrolled diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension, those cancer patients, and people living with HIV and AIDS, are patients who are on immunosuppressive treatment. Some people need immunosuppression like steroids. These patients undergoing these treatments are at very high risk of developing severe illness. So what are the treatments given in hospitals? These are oxygen therapy. We all know India is running short of oxygen. So oxygen is given. Steroids, the only proven treatment which is approved by FDA is steroids, which will suppress the immune level acting against us. So steroids are dexamethasone. These are the only proven treatment and successfully treated. And these injection remdesivir, tocilizumab, these are doubtful. We don't know how much this is helping the patient to recover. We don't know, but still we are giving. These are doubtful, and this prone position is very, very significant and very much helpful in improving the patient. I will tell in the upcoming slide. And plasma therapy. What is plasma therapy means? If I am infected with COVID and I have recovered, means I have antibodies against COVID. That is normal. If you are infected and you are recovered, means you have antibodies against that organism. So after a patient who is recovered from COVID, we take the antibodies from the patient and give it to a patient who is suffering. This is plasma therapy. So taking an antibody from a patient who is recovered from the illness and giving it to a affected patient is plasma therapy. Another is supportive cares. These are the prone position. If a patient oxygen is very less, like 90, 94, this prone position can be tried in the hospital. This prone position reduces the workload of your lungs and helps in the early recovery. Prone positioning improves the ventilation. We ask the patient to prone for every 30 minutes, for every 4 hours. 30 minutes every 4 hours. So how to monitor the prognosis? First is patient will be clinically well-being, in the state of getting clinical well-being. And there are certain blood tests. We can assess the blood counts and certain blood CRP, D-dimer. These are the tests. And CT, in the CT, we can assess the percentage of lung involvement. For example, initially the patient is 40 to 60% lung is involved. If a second CT shows the involvement is 20%, 30%, that means is improving. Then what is vaccine? This is the most debatable topic of today. So many doubts are there whether to use vaccine or not to use vaccine. What are the complications of vaccine? So I will brief about the vaccine. So any guesses for which is the best discovery of the millennium? Anyone? The best discovery of the millennium is oral dehydration solution, ORS. And you know about ORS? We call it as electral powder. ORS. In those days, people used to die in masses. Like if a village is infected with cholera, every village has a single water source. Like only a well will be present. Only a drinking well will be common for entire village. So once a well is infected, the entire village gets infected with cholera and people die in masses. So why they are dying? Because of dehydration. The dehydration gets corrected. My father used to say, in those days that there won't be any hospitals. Hospitals will be far away from the village, and there won't be any transportation facilities. So they used to take 2 or 3 patients in a single cot, and they will be running to the hospital of around 15 to 20 kilometers. They used to run. When they reach the hospital, 2 of them will be died. So people used to die in masses in those days. So only a miraculous solution that saves all of them is oral rehydration solution. So the oral rehydration solution just rehydrate the patient and saves all of them. So this is the best discovery of the millennium. The second thing is vaccine. So how a vaccine works? Who discovered the vaccine? Mr. Edward Jenner, who is considered as the father of the vaccine, he discovered the vaccine. He discovered the first vaccine to be discovered is smallpox virus. We know smallpox is completely eradicated now. He is only a legend. He is a legend. How? Because he only first discovered the vaccine. At that time, smallpox is a fatal disease. There is no cure. Once you get smallpox, you will be killed. There is no treatment, no cure. But he first discovered the vaccine, and he tested the vaccine on himself. The first vaccine he created, he tested on himself, and he made the virus free for all. He didn't claim any copyright, and he made free for all. This how he eradicated all the virus. So how a vaccine is prepared? There are two types of vaccines. One is live vaccine, another one is killed vaccine. So live vaccine means for that to understand, we should know the two terms. One is virulence and one is antigenicity. So what is virulence means? The ability of a organism to cause a disease, that is called virulence. Now, what is antigenicity means? The ability of the organism to provoke an immune response, to provoke our immune cells. It's not the ability to cause disease, it's the ability to provoke an immune response is antigenicity. So two vaccines I said, one is live vaccine and killed vaccine. In live vaccine, the disease, for example, the virus, coronavirus is taken, is subject to multiple cultures, like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, repeated cultures. So at the end of the culture, the virus lost its virulence. The virulence will be lost, but its antigenicity will be present. Like that, what happens is when a foreign body enters in our body means our immune cells will act. Immune cell, like the fight will happen between our immune cells and the foreign body that take place inside our body. Then there are some cells called memory cells. That memory cells will remain. Every foreign body, every virus has a molecular pattern that is pathognomic for that virus only. For example, the rabies virus, we all know. Rabies virus is bullet shaped. Then this coronavirus, we know that crown will be present everywhere. So every virus has a particular structure which is typical for that virus itself. So there are cells called memory cells. These memory cells will keep on remember the structure of the virus. So they will be ready for the second attack. So that only, do we get a second episode of chickenpox? No, we will never. Once we get a chickenpox, we will never get a chickenpox. Like that, this memory cells is very important. So by killing a virulent virus, that is like a dead snake, we are giving a virus that cannot cause a disease but can provoke the immune cells. That is the live virus. So if we give you a live virus vaccine, which is a live coronavirus, but it cannot cause the disease, that will provoke the immune cells, will provoke the memory cells. So it will be, our body will be ready for the attack whenever a new virus will come. This is the live vaccine. And killed vaccine means we'll take only the structure, only the structural proteins, and give it to the patient. That will also provoke our immune cells. So the basic principle behind giving a vaccine is making our immune cells ready for the attack. That is the secret behind the vaccines. So vaccination is the need of the hour. So as we said, survival of the fittest. The fittest are those who are vaccinated now. So these are the vaccines available now. Oxford, AstraZeneca, which is the Covishield, which is available in India. Then Moderna, Pfizer, Sputnik, which is from Russia, and Sinovac is from China. Sinovac from China, Novax, and Johnson & Johnson, which is produced by Johnson & Johnson. So this is the best example how COVID virus saves you. This is myself. I got COVID and I am twice vaccinated 1 month back. I was infected with COVID. See, my CT is completely normal. No evidence of ground glass opacities. CT scan did not reveal any significant abnormality. So I am completely normal. I recovered without any symptoms. This is post-COVID duty. Because for our healthcare professionals, the amount of viral load we are taking is so much. In our hospital, it is only 600 bed hospital, but now there are 1,200 patients. 1,200 patients. The air is completely, entirely toxic. Everywhere there is COVID, and even every patient has 3 to 4 attenders, helpers. They also having COVID. They will be coughing and sneezing everywhere. So the amount of viral load taken by a medical professional is very high compared to the common public. That's why the death is very high in the medical professionals. So even with such a high viral load, my CT showed no significant abnormality. I am completely normal. But my colleague, my classmate who studied with me in schools, he's IT professional in Bangalore. He got infected with COVID, and see, his CT score is 10/25, which means 40% of his lungs is infected. Just he is the same age, 31-year-old male. So he's not vaccinated. So this is a difference. Vaccine cannot save you from COVID. That is, you can get the virus, you can get the infection, but your chance of going for severe infection is very, very, very less. I have never, even last 1 month, the amount of death in our hospital is around 30 to 40. Now it becomes 50. Now it became 50. Daily 50 people are dying in our hospital. But I have not seen a single death due to COVID post-vaccination. No single death occurred in a patient who got vaccinated. This is fair. So vaccine can protect you 100% from getting severe illness. So vaccine is the need of the must. So available in India is Covishield and Covaxin. So what is the complication of taking virus? Yes, there are adverse events. There are some side effects. Covishield, it is proven that Covishield can cause blood clots inside the brain, inside the heart. And the incidence is 1 in 30,000. Yes, but these are adverse because we are in the initial stages. These vaccines are produced in a hurry. So these are expected. But Covaxin is still much safer. If you are able to get Covaxin, get 2 shots of Covaxin immediately. If you are not, can take Covishield also. So 2 vaccines available in India are Covishield and Covaxin. They are saying that Moderna and Sputnik, which is Russian vaccine, is also going to be approved in India. So if you get a Covaxin, take Covaxin immediately. So this is the data. 1 crore people took Covaxin, and who got positive after the second dose is only very minimal. See, 0.004% after both doses. And those people who got both shots of Covishield, the positivity after a second dose is only 0.003. That's very less. These people, the chances of getting a second, getting severe illness is very, very less. I have not seen anyone getting severe illness after vaccination. So this is a summary. So vaccinate yourself. It is very must. It is the need of the hour. Live to survive. For survival of the fittest, you need vaccination. So vaccinate. This 100% protection from severe illness. Then, as I said, SMS, soap, mask, and social distancing. If infected, isolate and monitor yourself. 2 things to monitor. One is your oxygen level. Another one is 6-minute walk test. These are the things you should monitor in your home. Look for the red flag signs and be strong. Do physical work daily. It's very must because we have so much anxiety and we are reading so many news and so many WhatsApp news, everything which makes us anxiety, and which will help in recovering the anxieties from regular exercise. So then it is to be normal being abnormal. This is common. We need not worry about I am so anxious, I am so sad. That is no need. But do regular exercise because exercises are miraculous. Why people are addicted to alcohol, smoking? Because they produce a state of euphoria. Euphoria means a state of elated mood. Why they are getting elated moods means some hormones secrete in our brain because after taking that smoking alcohol. That same amount of euphoria is produced when you're doing exercise also. Some hormones called endorphins. Endorphins are mood elaters which are secreted in our body post exercises. So physical work can do miracles, and then also improve your lung capacity also. So don't sit alone in your home. That's it. I think this would be some useful for you all. Any doubts you can ask now.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rakesh. You have finished at the exact time. We just wanted to remind you. So there are some questions in the chat box if you would like to answer now. And
okay.
Well, it's open for the audience. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat box and we will be asking now. So the first question is...
no.
Should I read out? Should I read out or you're going to answer from there?
Okay.
Recently in Jharkhand and Odisha, the initial...
that's a very good question. Once recovered from COVID, how many days I should take? How many days we can? Once recovered from the COVID, you need not vaccinate for 60 to 90 days because your natural antibodies will be present in your body for 2 to 3 months. So there is no need of vaccinating after getting a natural COVID infection. You can vaccinate yourself about 2 to 3 months. Not necessary to immediately vaccinate. If you vaccinate immediately after getting COVID, you will get severe symptoms because already antibodies will be present in your body, and you again put a vaccine, you will get the post-vaccination symptoms will be very severe. So need not vaccinate for 20 to 30 days, 30 to 60 days.
Some have asked that in some places the treatment for typhoid is curing COVID positive patients. So some of them have asked similar questions about typhoid and COVID.
Sir, no, sir. It is completely wrong question because typhoid is a virus. Salmonella typhi typhoid is caused by a bacteria called Salmonella typhi, but COVID is a virus. So the treatment never goes hand in hand. So we cannot cure COVID with the typhoid treatment.
Is N95 mask washable?
No. N95 mask is not washable, but you use an N95 mask on the day 1 and just keep it for 5 days, and after 6th day you can use the N95 mask. Washing will reduce the effectivity of the N95 mask, but you can reuse it without washing for every 5th day up to 5 to 6 times.
There is an app called mFine. Is that in that the oxygen level is shown? Is that reliable or is it just a scam? You spoke about oximeter, right?
I don't know, sir, but the pulse oximetry is the best method for measuring oxygen level. I will check on that app. I don't know about that app, sir.
So one clarification was required. One of them have asked. Someone wrote that the treatment for typhoid is treatment for COVID. You have answered that one.
And the vaccines we have in India is not 100% effective. More than the region of no vaccine is 100% effective in the world. The most effective vaccine found out till date is measles vaccine, which is 96% effective. 70 to 80% effectivity is more than enough for our community, because once we develop a term called herd immunity, for the developing the herd immunity, 60% of effectivity is enough. So 70% to 80% effective is more than enough. That can prevent you from getting severe illness.
The other question is, since you said if we recover once, there will be antibodies in our body, but they are individuals who are infected by the virus for the second time.
Yes, that's why I told the autoimmunity, the antibodies will last for 2 to 3 months only. That is 60 to 90 days only. So only I asked to vaccinate after 30 to 60 days. So natural immunity after getting COVID, the antibodies will last for 2 to 3 months. So the chance of getting a reinfection after 60 days is possible. I have seen many of my friends getting reinfected after 60 days.
There are no medicines to destroy the COVID coronavirus. What is being given? Is it useful to prevent secondary bacterial infections?
Yes, correct. There is only the drug called remdesivir. The remdesivir can slow down the viral multiplication only, but there is mostly viruses. The viruses cannot be cured. Like bacteria we can destroy the bacteria, but once the virus enters, we cannot cure. There is no proven treatment for all viruses. For example, HIV virus, hepatitis B viruses. These viruses can cause prolonged infection and illness. There is no cure for viral illness. It can resolve on its own. So what is the treatment given is to prevent secondary bacterial infection, because once the viruses goes inside our respiratory tract, it damages the epithelium. That is, the outer layer of the respiratory tract will be damaged, which will provide a good surface for the bacterial contamination. So once our respiratory tract epithelium or outer layers are destroyed, the bacteria comes and sit and provides a secondary bacterial infection. So on the antibodies given, the other supportive drugs given are only for preventing the secondary bacterial infection.
The diagnosis was not complete. The patient is given typhoid treatment, and meanwhile the coronavirus is multiplying without the obtained being aware. So increased viral load leading to several illness.
Yes, viral load is very significant. That's why I told viral. Around 800 doctors died in the COVID. The death rate among the doctors is very high because of the viral load we are taking. For example, if a common public takes 2 lakhs viral load, means we taking 10 lakhs and crores of viral load, because we are exposed to so much patients. So viral load is very significant factor in causing the severity of the illness.
If a person takes just 1 dose of vaccine instead of 2 doses and gets infected after that, how severe is the infection?
Yes, the research says 1 dose also gives 40 to 50% protection from getting severe illness.
The other question is related to that. Why do some say that one vaccinated vaccine lasts only a few months and we should get vaccinated again? Why is it so?
Because the coronavirus is very new to us. Very new to us. When normally, can you guess how long it takes for a new drug to come into the community? It will take 12 years for any new drug or a new vaccine to the common public. It should take 12 years, because first they check in animals, then they check in health diseased those persons who are diseased, and they check in healthy individuals. Then they monitor for 4 to 5 years of post drug complications. They will observe the patient. They take 100 patients and they will observe over 4 to 5 years. After this, these are called clinical trials. This will take there are multiple steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. After these clinical trials take 12 years. After 12 years only a drug comes to the market. But we are under a pandemic. So many people are dying. So we have fast tracked the effort. So we don't know what is the long-term consequences of the illness. So and long-term efficacy of the vaccine also we don't know. So only they are advising. What another method is, they are checking the antibodies levels. There are some tests to check our viral antibody level. So we can after 6 months of vaccination, we can check our COVID antibody level. If it is less than 0, we can retake the shot itself. So there is no defined protocol now. But what we know is these vaccines available now can prevent us from getting severe illness. Then can prevent us from getting oxygen dependent. We can cure itself by home isolation. We need not run for bed. That is more hectic now. So many relatives are calling me, doctor, please make available for bed. Make ready for. I cannot make happy anyone. Now I become villain for most of them, because there is highly impossible. Because in a state of 600 patients, we are treating 1,200 patients. That is very hectic, and making bed is so very difficult. So hectic, pathetic, and young people are dying.
We'll go to last 2 questions, sir. So okay. One question is here is,
and also there is very important, then a very good question. We should not vaccinate pregnant and lactating mothers.
Yeah.
Vaccine is contraindicated in pregnant and lactating mothers.
Yeah, that was one question. Then another last question is, what about the 30% not recovered by the vaccine efficiency? These are not protected presumes. WHO has said that remdesivir is not effective in shortening length of disease, etc.
I could not get the question.
I think there are spelling errors in that question.
Yes, I said no. The only proven treatment is steroids only. All that remdesivir, tocilizumab are still doubtful only, but we don't know how much they are helping. I have seen patients dying after taking remdesivir, tocilizumab. So these are only doubtful. We cannot swear how much they are helping in treatment. So only improvement is steroids.
There is a development that the British government has banned the vaccine for people under the age of 40. However, in India, we do not have a choice in India because there are very few centers which provide Covaxin. What do you do then? Yes, AstraZeneca vaccine is Covishield. As I said, Covishield can produce blood clots inside your body, in your brain, in your heart. The incidence is 1 in 30,000. 1 in 30,000 people are getting that blood clots, but it can protect. Comparing the risk-benefit ratio, remaining 19,900 patients are saved. No, so comparing the risk-benefit ratio, and there is no available other vaccines in India. So still they are providing Covishield. So better vaccine is Covaxin. Now the better vaccine is Covaxin. If Covaxin is not available in your area, you can take Covishield. Thank you, Doctor, for answering all the questions. And thank you, dear participants, for those doubts and questions. I'm sure with this clarity, our hopes are rekindled. As we draw close to the end of today's webinar, I now request Brother Newton to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good evening to all the participants and the dignitaries. and Dr. Rakesh. It is my pleasure and my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. First of all, I am very much grateful to the Almighty God for this beautiful moment. Actually, the informations or the hours we spend, it is absolutely valuable and worth to listen to. That's why I'm very much thankful to Almighty God. And thanks to our speaker, Dr. Rakesh Sebastian, MBBS and MD, Department of Nephrology, Government, Rajaji Hospital, Madurai. And your contribution made, of course, I'm sure they made a huge difference in the panel discussion, in the webinar. And as many people have raised their question, we are sure that all of us are benefited from your talk. And thank you so much. And we look forward to your cooperation and look to have your help here among us. And I must not forget some institutions who are very, very always generous, who are always very much fast to say that, okay, we'll help you, no problem. So I'm Brother Newton. I'm one of the members of Digital Jesuits, and on behalf of the team, I would like to remember and I would like to thank Xavier University, Xavier's Institute of Engineering, Xavier University of Bhubaneswar, and Aloysius College from Mangalore. These are the renowned institutions of us, and we are very much grateful and thankful to all of you. And also for the technical support, the person always we can see and always we can rely upon, always we can depend on is none other than Father Joshi. He is always with us. If we are at the time of difficulty, at the time of problem, Father Joshi is always over there to help us, to say, yes, don't worry, man, we are here, I am here. So thank you so much, Father Joshi, and please be with you. Please be with us always, and God bless you. And the MC, so nicely presented, is none other than Brother McQueen. He is doing graduation and he is writing his semester exam. In spite of that, he availed his time, he prepared so well. Thank you, Brother McQueen, for your nice presentation. And thank you so much, all of you, and St. Xavier's University Institute of Engineering principal for bringing the speaker. Because the speaker really mattered a lot for us, and such a nice presentation. Probably, I'm sure we all will be helped with that presentation. And thank you, dear participants, and thank you, dear organizers, and hope to meet you again. And please be with us. And your participation and your support matters a lot. It gives the message to us that you are with us, and your support is always the light for us. And also, before I conclude, I must say that please visit our website. We have Digital Jesuits website. We have our website, our Facebook page, that is also in the name of Digital Jesuits. Our Instagram page, that is also in the name of Digital Jesuits. Our Twitter page, Digital Jesuits. Please follow our pages, and please don't forget to leave a comment or leave a feedback. Your feedback really, really matters a lot. And of course, I would like to say, if you are interested to have our presentation, please reach us so that we can make available whatever documents or whatever things you need. Please let us know. Don't feel hesitated. Please let us know, and we'll make sure that things are given to you. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Newton, for those words of appreciation and gratitude. As some of you had asked for PPTs, you can just write us directly through mail, and we will be sharing the PPTs with you all. With this, we conclude our webinar. Thank you, one and all. Hope this session will enliven our drooping spirit and boost our hope and confidence in the days to come. We are one in the fight because the fight is in us, and we will, as one, brave this fight till the end. God bless us all. Ash Digital Jesuits. Thank you.
Thank you all. Be safe.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. Thank you, Father Joshi.
Thank you.
Thank you.